Good evening, boys and girls, and welcome to Scary Stories by the Campfire. I am your host, the tall man. Just kidding, it's Jason.
Well, I'm Reggie, the ex-ice cream man.
Reggie in this.
No, I'm
You
Jeremy.
gotta shave your head, Jeremy. Gotta shave your head.
No, it can't be bald. It has to be like a receding hairline.
That goes all the way back.
Mm-hmm.
All the way back.
All the way
All
back.
right.
So, here we are, Phantasm II.
You watched a good movie, boy, but now the movie is over. Now you talk and discuss. Yay! That's what we're doing today. That's what we're doing this evening. We are talking about Phantasm II.
Oh man, what a movie this was. It was a doozy, wasn't it, Jason?
This movie, just like the first one, I've never seen this one. And it's kind of funny because we missed the first like 20 minutes of this movie. We were out getting dinner and we had our phones on us and we were waiting for the time to start. And me and Raven were actually picking up some chicken wings. And we caught sight of this thing on the wall that had like movie quotes and we were trying to guess the movies. And then we just happened to look down and went, oh God, we were 10 minutes late. And we started getting it up, but the thing said, um, the phones and whatnot, we were having some sort of issue, so we weren't able to get on until like another 10 minutes later. So we missed about 20 minutes of the movie. I don't know if that 20 minutes would have helped because it was still kind of like what is going on type of movie. The first thing, I'm gonna be honest with you, Jeremy, the first thing that I really remember seeing in this movie was the scene where that girl's back split open and that thing came out of it. Like that was like literally what we jumped into. We were like, okay, we got it good. You ready? You said, oh my God, what is that? that is how our movie experience started. And I'm gonna tell you, it was good. This movie is weird.
It very much is weird.
It is weird. I still don't know where we're going with all this. But I did like this movie. This was a fun movie to watch. It was fun. We got to laugh a lot. I don't think it was trying to be funny, but it was very funny.
I loved it. I love this movie, especially there's just so many good things about this movie. And I know it's a terrible movie. I know it is. Like, realistically, it's a bad movie. The story is completely bonkers. The characters are completely bonkers.
Is it really a bad movie?
But it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I guess right here on Wikipedia it said the film caused controversy among fans by recasting main character Mike with LaGrosse and was not well received by critics.
Yeah, so apparently Universal took this movie over. And executives wanted to actually recast both Mike and Reggie, and Don had to resist it and had to force an audition for both characters, and his efforts only won him the efforts to bring back one person, and he chose Reggie over Michael Baldwin.
Yeah, I think we get
Michael Baldwin comes back in the third movie, though, and he does have like a small cameo in this one as young Mike, but older Mike was replaced due to Universal direct influences.
I hate when studios like when those big wigs get involved. They always want to make the movie kind of how they see fit, and I really don't think that they know how to do these types of movies. I mean, I think those that like the higher ups, the execs or whatever, they look at a big picture and they go, well, this is what we want because this is what's going to work. And quite frankly, a lot of times it doesn't work. There's been a couple times where I've seen articles where the the writer or the director of the movie is like, well, this is how the movie was supposed to go. What you saw was like the direct influence of like the producers or the executives or whatever at the studio,
Yep.
and that's why the movie is the way it is. And people are like, they hate this movie, but they would go, hey, but this is exactly how we wanted to do it, and this is kind of how the story we wanted to play out. And you're like, wow, why couldn't we do why couldn't you guys do that? That was way better. It just happens a lot of times, and that's the bad thing about movies. That's the movie business. It's just a lot of times the execs just try to capitalize on what was already given, which is weird because I don't think Phantasm was like that big of a movie. I don't think so.
It wasn't. And this one actually came out 9 years after the first one.
9 years?
This movie came out in 88. So the first one came out in 79. This one came out in 88. Like, that's a big gap between a sequel.
Who thought they needed a Phantasm sequel?
And Universal also wanted to have a female lead, and they discouraged the illusory style of the first movie, and they wanted a more linear plot line with this one over the first one. Because I think that's what made the first one so unique, was that you have no idea what's happening in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's just there. And you're just like, okay, well, that happened. Okay, well, that just happened. I did like, though, that in this one, they start including more of the tall man, giving him a little bit more.
Yeah, he did seem to have a much more present aspect of this movie. But the thing about this movie is it doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things. At least not to me. Like I said, I don't know if maybe the 20 minutes we missed at the beginning had anything to do with it, but
well, so essentially what happened is Mike was institutionalized after the first movie, and
his brother was really dead.
Yeah, his brother's really dead. And this was him, at the beginning, was him getting out of the psychiatric ward and meeting up with Reggie to hunt and kill the tall man.
Now, did it say how long it took after the first movie?
I think it's 15 to 20 years.
Did they ever take that road trip? I'm just wondering. Did they ever take that road trip?
I don't think so, because at the end of that movie is when he's the whole thing happens in his room. But
yeah, but that could have been like I Know What You Did Last Summer type thing, where she gets attacked by the killer at the end of the movie. Oh, spoiler alert. She gets attacked by the killer at the end of the movie, and then they just reference it as a dream in the second movie. Like, oh, you're having those nightmares again.
Well,
I hate when movies do that. They don't actually gonna ever explain. I mean, it could have been maybe they weren't looking to do a sequel to the first one, and that's just kind of the ending. It's just like you don't know if it's real or not. Is it horror or is it fantasy?
So
fantastic horror. Woo woo.
So they had. I just read somebody auditioned to play the role of Mike. It was Brad Pitt.
No.
Imagine Brad Pitt going against the tall man.
And see, that's the thing about it, is that in movies like these are kind of like lower. I don't want to make it sound bad. Don't want to make it sound horrible, but these are like, they seem like lower quality movies.
So
I mean, the content is good, and the special effects in this one were pretty good. But they're just not like, this isn't like big time franchise like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, where those guys have like big named people in it, like well, people who would become big name guys like Johnny Depp or Kevin Bacon, something like that. This movie definitely has the feel of like something like Bruce Campbell would be in, which is not a bad thing because Bruce Campbell does some amazing stuff. You know, he can take a low B movie, C movie, or whatever, and make it fun.
Yeah, this movie
so
actually had the highest budget
out of all of them.
out of all of them.
Well, I mean, they probably busted it on that fang growing out of that girl's back. I know. Looking at it, some of like the scenes with the balls flying were kind of corny and kind of on the special effects.
They're heat seeking, by the way.
They're heat seeking. So I guess they don't have a brain of their own.
No.
No, probably why it attacked the tall man, even though he didn't care. He's like, you fool.
Crumbled it up like a tin can.
I know. That's like his weapons. He has those things. What are those things even for?
The protection.
From what?
Everything.
Everything. The guy doesn't take any sort of damage. He's not like...
By the way, Sam Raimi visited the set multiple times.
Who did?
Sam Raimi.
That explains why they crushed his ashes into dust.
Don Coscarelli is good friends with him.
No, well, that explains that. Now it makes a lot of sense. I want Ash Williams to go against the tall man. That's what I want.
Yeah, they it was there's a cool thing that I read about the house blowing up. But one other thing I did read is White Zombie actually used the line, "You think that when you die you go to heaven, you come to us," on their song Disaster Blaster 2 off their God of Thunder EP.
Really?
Yeah.
Check that out. I might have to check that out. What are those little balls called?
They don't have a name. Although the gold one was nicknamed Rambo.
Say Rambo.
I did. They nicknamed him Rambo on the set. I love how it got like stuck in trying to come out of the mouth and it couldn't get out. And it's just like, wee, wee.
I like the fact that that they just left it there. Like that thing had been busting through doors to kill them. It gets stuck in this guy's mouth, and Mike doesn't even bother to shoot it.
Heck no, Techno.
He didn't even bother. Sentinels.
Oh, is that what they're called?
Yeah, the Sentinels are spherical metal devices used by the tall man for various purposes, primarily enforcement. They are best known for their ability to jam into a human skull and suck out the blood, thus killing the victim. Through unknown propulsion, they float in the air. I guess there's different types.
Huh.
There's the Silver Sentinel, which was first seen in Phantasm. The Gold Sentinel, which was in Phantasm II. The Black Sentinel, which was in Phantasm III. The Makeshift Sentinel, Phantasm IV. The Red Sentinel in 5. And the Giant Sentinel in 5. Well, I want to see what the giant one looks like. It's just like a big bowling ball.
We'll see it when you get to Phantasm 5.
The Sentinels were based on a dream that Don... What's his name?
Coscarelli.
Coscarelli. The Sentinels were based on a dream that Don Coscarelli had.
Yes, I read that on the last one.
There's a new type of Sentinel in each film.
So here's a good one while you're looking at that. The house explosion that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So they bought the house from the state of California that they were going to use, and they added a second story to it. California said that they could do it as long as they move it from the site afterwards.
Yeah.
A safety officer was sent to supervise the stunt and kept restricting the amount of explosives due to the fact that the house was near an airport. When he asked what movie the scene was being filmed for and was told it was Phantasm II, he responded, "This is Phantasm? Blow the hell out of it," and allowed them to use as much explosives as they desired. The house was then rigged with a primer cord, mortars, black powder bombs, and plenty of gasoline, and was blown up in one single take.
Wow. Just blow it up.
Oh, it went sky high.
That was a big explosion in that movie. So yeah, I guess these things don't really have a mind of their own. They just do their own thing because they were killing everyone. They were killing morticians. They were killing people. I think they killed a priest. They tried to kill the tall man. What's the point in having a weapon that zips around and kills people if it's just gonna jam into your head?
I don't know, but this is the last movie that they do this where ordinary people see just a morticianer, and certain people can see everything else kind of deals, like this illusion style. It gets to be more linear after this movie.
Here we go, Jeremy. This makes a lot of sense. John Kenneth Muir states that, like many horror films of the 1980s, Phantasm II shifted its focus to guns. Sequels in the 1980s were required to be bigger, gorier, and have more firepower than previous installments. The theme of bigger is better means that everything is upgraded. A quadruple shotgun, golden spheres with increased weaponry, yes, we'll come back to that, a chainsaw duel, and the nature of the tall man's death. Muir states that the narrative of a boy dealing with the loss of his family is unchanged, but it is approached differently. Instead of the surrealism of Phantasm, it is approached in a conventional, less abstract manner. Let's talk about the baddest gun in this entire movie, the quadruple shotgun.
That thing was huge, and he used it once.
That was by far the most.
He shot 4 dwarves at once.
To me, it was a letdown.
Oh no, it was.
It was.
They ramped that thing up, and he carried that thing around, and he shot it once and threw it off to the side.
He had that thing for the entire movie. He put it together. He had it for the entire movie, and there was even like fun little instances where he was going to use it. It was like a tease, like they're being chased by the tall man in the hearse, and he's like, "Shoot him, Reggie! Shoot him!" And he pulls out the shotguns, getting ready to shoot him, and then they crash or whatever. And so there's I think he was going to try to use it on the gas mask guy, or whatnot. But yeah, it just seemed like that shotgun was just a complete way. And then when he finally did shoot it, was just boom, knocked down 4 dwarfs, and he just tossed it. It was like he didn't have any sort of strain.
Oh yeah, no.
Me and Raven were talking about it, but I'm gonna say that he maxed out his strength. Jeremy, do you think it was strength or endurance that allowed him to shoot that gun?
Oh, it had to be endurance because while we were talking about movie night Monday, Buck Hunter was like, "Yeah, he wouldn't have a shoulder."
Yeah.
After.
Wouldn't it be strength to like hold it in place as it fired? Or I would think that endurance would be like.
You have the endurance to take the hit.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, she said the same thing. I'm not listening to you guys.
But no, okay, well then let's talk about the other best weapon in the movie.
Chainsaw Man.
No, the flamethrower that they used to light a fireplace.
Yes, they had that high-powered flamethrower that they were firing to light a fireplace because they were inside the building, and there was a bunch of candles that were lit. And I think the funny thing about it is that the first thing I saw was the candles lit, and he was sitting there just flamethrowing the fireplace, and I just thought to myself, I was like, how do they light the candles? Did they use the flamethrower? They used the flamethrower, I bet. That's what I was thinking. I just want to see him like, all right, line up the candles. Whoosh.
So
All the way down.
I know it's supposed to be a horror film, but man, we had a lot of laughs during it. What was the funniest scene to you?
The funniest scene?
The funniest scene, because I have mine.
Oh my God, Jeremy, let me guess right. Is it Reggie?
It does
in
involve.
bed with that, is it Reggie in bed with that girl?
I was crying. I was laughing so
excited. I know she was like she was kind of an oddball character. It's like she's an oddball character. There's something up with her. But during that scene, she was just like rubbing on his head and kissing on his on his receding hairline, because Reggie's got the baldness going on all the way almost to the back of his head, and she was just all into it. She just loved it, and we were sitting there. It's supposed to. I don't know if it's supposed to be comedy at that point, but I think everyone in the chat was just laughing at it because it was just so outrageously hilarious.
She's like bouncing around and like kissing on his bald head and rubbing it, and then the grenade goes off.
Yeah, and they killed like a squirrel or something.
It was a cat. It was
a cat. Oh.
It was a cat.
Oh, poor Mittens. Poor Mittens.
But what about Boomer?
What about Boomer? Yeah. So there was that, and then at the end of this movie, they quote unquote killed Reggie again. Guy's got more death than the tall man.
I mean, he's in every single movie, so we know he's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's like maybe he's like the tall man. In each movie, they both die, but they come back for the next movie.
I will say his death in this movie was so much better than in the first one, for the tall man.
Oh, you're talking about the tall man. I was about to say, well, Reggie just kind of, they didn't really die. He got stabbed and then he got better, but it wasn't technically a death because it was.
Yeah, because he's like, I ain't 3'8" either.
Yeah, well, that and when Mike woke up, he was still there, so there was that. But yeah, in the first movie, the tall man died by falling into a fake hole, because that was a fake hole. I don't care what anyone says. That was not no pit. That was a fake. That looked like one of those. Remember that show, Jeremy, growing up? Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yes.
Yeah, that looked like one of those pits in there that had like the foam boulders at the bottom of it. Like you would fall in, and it'd be real fun. You want to just jump in, because when the boulders were falling in, of course they were kind of big foamy looking boulders too. But when they were falling in, you could see like how they had draped, like I don't know if it was like spandex or some sort of cloth to make the actual walls. They were just kind of bouncing. And like I said, this is why I say these movies are kind of a lower quality, but they're just as good. Because I think if this was like, anyone out there listening that thinks that this movie should get a remake needs to go away right now. This movie does not need a remake. It needs to stay this classic. I mean, Jeremy, you're smiling like you know something.
It should get a remake. I think the first one should have a remake.
I think this. I mean, the way the franchise is going right now, like the first movie was really good. This one, in my opinion, I know a lot of people may not think so, but in my opinion, I think this one was a little bit better, just because I could laugh at it more. I know there was like certain elements from the first movie that I could laugh at and enjoy, but overall, it was just kind of like that surreal kind of, you don't know what's real, what's not. Yep. Which is what it's supposed to be, and you're just kind of like, and by the end of the movie, you're just kind of like, I don't know. But this movie, it's like, this is just so cornball crazy. I'll dig it. And as the movies progress, I think they actually get worse, like story-wise.
They do.
So by the time we get to like Ravager or whatever, we're gonna be all like, please just kill us now. Can we go back to the first one? this series needs a remake. But I do think that this movie works best in its low quality, cheesy atmosphere. Now, if they were to go back and do the first one, it actually needs to be taken seriously. It needs to be full on horror. Not like that little half and half, or it's supposed to be horror, but it's not really that scary. It needs to go full on horror, and it needs to kind of be more, I think, surreal, more kind of like something like maybe like Hereditary or something.
Yeah, I could see that. They it's just like I said, the death of the tall man in this one was just so well done. It kind of had that Sam Raimi feel to it from the original Evil Dead.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I know they had what was that new Evil Dead movie that just came out? Evil Dead Rises or Evil Dead Rise?
Yeah.
That one just came out, and I've heard that it's gotten like really, really good reviews. And that's the thing about it, is that you can take something like Evil Dead, like the original OG Evil Dead. That movie was meant to be serious.
It's so good.
It was meant to be scary. And with its low budget and its low quality work, it comes off as being campy. And that's okay, because it works. And then when they came out with the second one, which by far is like one of my favorite movies of all time, they were able to perfectly execute that campiness with the horror itself, which in my opinion is probably one of the best examples of how like actual dark comedy works. I mean, you may think of like Tucker and Dale versus Evil as kind of like dark comedy, but in my opinion it's not that dark. It's more like a comedy / horror. It's mostly supposed to be comedy with horror attachments to it. I think the way they did Evil Dead 2 was that they mixed the two elements very well together. But they also did Army of Darkness, which I think was a little bit weaker, but still a fun movie. But then they had the remake, or technically the remake / sequel or whatever.
That one was crazy.
And see, that's a way to do a remake, is to be able to, you could take kind of the same formula, teens in the woods, in a cabin, evil force, but you can change up the scenario on why they're there, what happens to them, and stuff like that. So I think that's an appropriate way to do a remake, which is something this series could use, something to revitalize it. Because when did the last movie come out? Ravager came out in what? Oh, God, I'm knocking down my mouse.
2000 something.
Ravager came out in 2016.
That's what it was, either 17 or 16.
And yeah, so I don't think they're planning on doing another one of these.
No, Angus Scrimm has already passed away, so they probably wouldn't.
Yeah, he passed away. Angus Scrimm, who is the one who plays the tall man, he passed away January 9th, 2016. This movie actually got released
October of 2016.
That was, October 7th.
Yep. I remember reading that last week. It was a cool little thing.
Yeah, so he passed away before the movie even got released, so this was... So yeah, I really do think that they're not really going to do anything with this. If they do, it'll definitely probably be leaning more towards a remake. But there's just no replacing the tall man. There's just nothing to it. He's got this way about him. I mean,
he does. Angus Scrimm portrays this role. He's one of those actors that he portrays a role perfectly. he's menacingly looking all of the time, and his face just fits it.
I think what's so funny about this and why I find this series so far to be really interesting is because I haven't seen any of these movies. I may have seen like little bits of the first one. That was about it. Nothing to really tie anything over. But so far, within the past 2 weeks, the past 2 Mondays, I've seen the first one and the second one. And by far, I know that the Tall Man is by far one of the. I mean, he's not the creepiest character, but he's definitely one of the cooler characters because he's so quotable now. Like, I literally opened up this thing with a quote. I think we were quoting him last week.
We were.
I mean, he's just got so many lines that are so great that it just his performance.
But there's the great thing about it is we're quoting him, but he doesn't have that many lines to begin with. He doesn't talk much at all. And either one so far, like he hasn't done much of talking in any of them, but you remember what he says because of how he does it. Like they shut the door and he's just like got the whole rock eyebrow thing going.
Yeah.
Looking at you, and you're like, hi. It was Angus Grimm was definitely a great cast. I'm glad they were able to keep him through all 5 movies. I think it would be hard to find a replacement for him.
Why did it take me there? Yeah, it's definitely, I wouldn't put him as being like one of the biggest horror villains out there, but he does definitely bring something to the table that just makes this whole thing work so well.
I think we were talking about him being the next Dead by Daylight character.
Yeah.
You hear that behavior?
Yeah.
You need to make the Tall Man a DBD killer. And Reggie needs to be the survivor. Reggie's perk, he pulls out the quadruple shotgun.
There's no guns in Dead by Daylight, Jeremy. The thing's useless anyway.
Exactly. There's guns in Dead by Daylight.
There's what?
There's guns. There's one.
Yeah, the cowboy guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that's because it's a weapon used against the other people.
Look, if we can put bombs or flash grenades, I think we can do this.
No.
The Tall Man's special ability will be sending out little munchkins.
No.
Sending out the spheres.
No. What he does is when he knocks you down, right? He knocks you down. He picks you up, carries you to the... He takes you, puts you on the hook. When he puts you on the hook, he goes, "The funeral is about to begin, sir."
Or, "You play a good game, boy."
So many. Oh.
But Reggie has to be the survivor.
Or when you run out of chances or whatever, and you get stabbed and you're getting taken up to the spider heaven thing or whatever, he thinks, "You think when you die, you go to heaven? You come to us."
Oh, that's a good one for that. God. See? Behavior. You gotta put him in so many things that could go well with this.
Yeah.
I like how they also get like almost sucked in to the other realm again, doing the exact same thing they did in the first movie.
Yeah.
And
what
Reggie,
is wrong with that guy?
Reggie has some of the strongest ankles ever.
Yes, it's just hanging out
by his toes.
I do like how like when they had the girl there, and Mike was all like, "Check this out," and he's like sticking his arm in there like he did in the first movie. He's like, "Well, you know what happens? You know what happens? You nearly fell in last time, and you don't have your brother here to save you." But no, you have Reggie's ankles. So, yay.
And then Reggie poured that hydrochloric acid into their embalming fluid.
Yeah.
I remember Jason got super queasy because he had the girl, like the tall man had that girl strapped to the table, and he was getting ready to start pulling the blood from her. And the tall man pulls out a needle that's like this long.
Yeah.
One of them old school embalming needles, and it's just getting ready to like.
I was not getting queasy, but Raven was over there like trying to cover my eyes. She said, "Don't look, don't look," and I'm like, "Stop it! I want to see him stab her." But that never happened.
No, he gets stabbed in the back of the neck with it.
And then his face melts, and he just oozed out honey mustard.
And then the weird bald-loving girl turns into him at the end of the movie.
Did she turn into him, or?
Well, he appeared in the front seat, and she wasn't there no more.
Yeah, I guess that is true. He just has the ability to teleport.
It's Jason again. He
just says maybe he's like a fan of Naruto and he just used substitution. I can't even talk. Substitution jutsu.
I love how he hid his little doorway though behind that other door, and they still found a way in.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's how it works.
Like look at this.
Even hit it even a little bit better than like in the first week, because in the first week it was just a door, and they open the door and there's the tuning forks, and this one is like hidden.
You gotta have a sphere to stick in it to open it.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I got this one. They ain't getting in here, and they open up. I'm like, hey, look, it's those tuning forks again. Let's just.
And look, over. More canisters that we know what's in them, but let's look inside. That was the other thing. I like how in this one you can actually like see the midget's face.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, that one canister when they were on the planet or whatever,
and it like
was crawling towards it. He's like, Reggie's like, ball back.
It looked like
I don't entirely know what he was yelling, but he was just like, and that thing was like coming up for a kiss. He's like,
well, like it seemed like everything was slower in the other way, so he's like, pull me back.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the gravity of the planet.
Oh man, good times.
Good times.
And it seemed like it was so funny because they're like, we're on the trail of the tall man. You can always tell what towns he hits. Some towns die by themselves, but others need help. And, like, they go into that town and like everything is boarded up and dead.
I still don't know like what his role is.
I think that's the point. He's making slaves using dead bodies.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is true. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. So, Jeremy, which one do you prefer, this movie or the first one? I know, it's a hard choice.
It really
is.
It's
a hard choice in life.
So, both of them have their pros and their ups and their downs. And their pros and their cons. Like, this one is a lot more fun to watch. Because it has that horror and humor part to it. But there's just something about the first one that encapsulates like that illusionary style of a movie. So it's like it's really hard to say which one I like better.
Because what you're saying is you can't choose.
Yeah, I think I can do that. I'll go with that.
Out. Well, speaking of choosing, Ravenfire asks, slaves for what?
Whatever they want. You didn't see them marching in line on the...
They look... Jesus, Jimmy, I saw that scene in Star Wars.
You leave the Jawas alone.
Those Jawas were just marching along. I don't know what they were...
They don't really say what they're for. It's kind of left up to interpretation.
Yeah.
But
Yes, indeed.
we still got 3 more of these movies to go.
3 more. That's what we got, guys. 3 more of these. And I think they actually just get worse from here, so I mean, I don't know what the next movie entails. I haven't seen anything for it. I'm keeping myself semi in the dark because I do believe that that makes these movies more interesting, more fun. So,
When you have no idea what's happening.
well, I still wouldn't know what was happening, so. What was with that little face over there? Why you put those little screamy face in the chat there? Just like, "Wah!" I think that's the face Reggie was making when that thing was crawling towards him. He's like, "Oh."
Oh, I bet it was. I can only imagine.
I don't want to imagine red hot planet with the gravity crushing you down and making you only 3 feet tall.
So, I'm looking at some of the quotes from the movie, and there's a couple funny ones, but something came when I saw one of them. It brought some up because you said it on Movie Night Monday when Reggie's in the chainsaw fight, and that dude's chainsaw is like, why do people every time when someone's on the ground with a chainsaw do they feel the need to go?
Yes. That's exactly what I was thinking. Because let me paint the picture for you people out there who have not seen the movie. Reggie, and does that guy have a name? Did they give him a name? He's just a guy in a gas mask.
No, yeah, it's just a random person.
He doesn't have a name. He's got to be like, I'm gonna call him Grave Robber because I think that's what he was doing. I think he was robbing the graves. He was excavating the bodies, I believe. Right, Jeremy?
Yes.
Am I wrong in that assumption? That's what he was doing. So I'm gonna call this guy Grave Robber. So Reggie and Grave Robber are doing this fight, right? And I think at this point Reggie already used his Quadra shotgun.
No, he got knocked out of his hand.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He got knocked out of his hand. And so Reggie's like, all right, well, we'll do this the fun way. He pulls out the chainsaw. Well, the guy's like, oh, and he goes over to a shelf and pulls out this chainsaw that's like, it has to be a couple, like a foot longer. It is a longer chainsaw. And we pause for a second. No answer. I still don't get to know what the slaves are for. The point in the whole movie. Why he is doing it. What is the ultimate goal to make slaves for what? And we still don't know. That's the face. Frustration. Well, you are just going to have to wait for the later movies. If they bother to explain it. So, and if they don't explain it, well, guess what? You're going to be lost like the rest of us. We can all be lost together. All right, back to story time. So, they're doing the chainsaw fight. Do. They're having a little powwow. Pow, pow, pow. And Reggie gets knocked to the ground and he loses his chainsaw. So, Reggie's lying on the ground. Well, I mean, he's lying on like a staircase, technically, I guess. He's kind of laying on a staircase. And the chainsaw guy is standing over him. He's standing over him. So his legs are like around Reggie's hips or whatever. He's standing there. And he's got the chainsaw and he has it pointing at Reggie. All he has to do is move, I don't know, maybe 3 inches forward. And he's got Reggie. Dead to rights. Just. But in every cinematic movie with a guy in a chainsaw, that bad guy has to lift it up above his head like he's a Tusken Raider at a pod race. And he's got to give out a little yell. And then Reggie just leans over, grabs his chainsaw, and rams that boy right up in there. Right between his legs. Just, and the guy's like, and then he just kind of collapses and falls. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Shove it through his chest. Game over. That's all you gotta do. You have him. You have the chainsaw 3 inches from him. Push it forward 3 inches.
Well, then again, Reggie isn't the brightest tool in the shed because there's two scenes that I'm thinking of. The first one, when they first get to the house that they're crashing at, when they first pick up that girl, like Mike grabs her and yanks her out of the way as if Reggie's about to chainsaw straight through her through the door.
That was the oddest reaction I had ever seen. They're like, we can't get through the door. He's like, I've got a way. And then he whips out this chainsaw, starts it. I guess he kind of starts to raise it up over his head. And Mike grabs this girl and just nearly pulls her off her feet, ripping her to the side. I don't think Reggie's going to cut through her to get to the door. I know Reggie's not the brightest crayon in the box, but I can guarantee you he was going to cut through that girl to get to the door. You didn't have to knock her over.
And
I'm just saying.
And to make Reggie a bigger goober, you may know what scene I'm talking about, where he was not ready. So they get to where they are at the funeral home for the last time, and he drills through the door, and Mike's like, all right, Reggie, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And he kicks the door open, and he's still got the drill in his hand.
Yeah, that's right. He drilled through that door, and Mike kicks the door open. He's got the flamethrower and the shield, the mask, the welding helmet down. He kicks open the door. He's like doing the look around, and Reggie's still trying to put the drill down and get his gun out. And we're just like, are you gonna? This is go time, Reggie. I think that's what makes Reggie, I think, in my opinion, the better character in this.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Not because he's just established already. I mean, Mike's established, but Reggie is. He reminds me of kind of like an Ash. Like the only way he's really hardcore and whatnot, but I think the only reason he really does get through these things is by the seat of his pants. He is just lucky, because there is no way this guy can pre-plan like anyone does. That might be another comparison to Evil Dead. Reggie is kind of like the Ash Williams of this. I mean, he did use a chainsaw.
That is true, and a shotgun.
And a shotgun. He used a quadra boomstick. The boom 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 stick. It makes boom 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 booms.
I thoroughly love Reggie. I love him in all the movies. He's great.
He's a DPD.
And it just keeps going.
Yeah, he is by far definitely one of the highlights of this movie. Like I said, I think, when you get a movie with like the hero is just he's like a super soldier, or this super cop or something, where they have like really no faults. They get into a situation where they are militarily trained to handle situations like that. Some characters do work out. I mean, it's not bad to have those characters, but when every movie has those characters, it gets kind of boring. That's why like your Ash Williams and your Reggies, they're the better characters in my opinion, because there's someone you can relate to. Because I can see myself in this situation doing that.
Jason, are you ready? Yeah, let's do it. Oh, yeah. I ain't ready yet. Hold on.
Oh, give me a sec. Wait, you kicked the door down. I said, okay, I wasn't entirely ready. Okay, I'm stuck here. Just give me a second. By that point we'd all be dead. But well, first of all, I wouldn't get into a chainsaw fight with another person. That was I do not want to know what damage a chainsaw could do. A lot of damage. So yeah.
Well, it's time for the ratings on IMDb.
For the ratings. Okay, guys. Hey, I'm letting everyone know out there now. Get your thumbs ready. Don't want none of those late throw-ins when we're.
Oh, while they're voting, I do have one last point I wanted to bring up. The overall power of those spheres is mind-boggling.
I think it was just the gold sphere. That thing was. Maybe that's why they call it Rambo. They should have just called
that thing.
Rhino.
Like picked up that dude up and was like flinging him everywhere.
Yeah, that was the silver or the gold.
The gold one. It was going through all the doors.
Yeah, it was first person through doors, just boosh, boosh. And then when it couldn't get through that one door, it just drilled through it, went through it, and then it, went into that guy's gut. Did he go through the gut?
Yeah, it went through his back.
Yeah,
It hit it back, and it spun through, and it went into him, and it just kind of bulged all of his innards till it came out of his throat and into his mouth, and couldn't come out through the mouth.
It got stuck. And what did Mike do?
Me.
Okay, let's go now. Let's just go. So, all right, let's do the IMDb. What is IMDb? 1 through 10.
1 through 10 with a grand whopping 16,000 votes.
I'm gonna go with a 6.2.
Wow. 6.4 out of 10.
You didn't even let the other ones go. Well, they got 5s and 6s, so. You said it was what, Jeremy?
6.4.
6.4. Okay, guys. Sorry, guys. I was closer. I beat you guys by 0.2.
And Ravenfire said she didn't think she would make it through the scene of his insides being mulched.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like viscerally gross. It was just kind of the idea that thing was just, and he was still screaming and stuff. That was kind of the gross part. It was like the guy's like, oh my god, blah, blah. And it's throwing him around this room. It's like, yeah, okay.
All right, it is time for the Rotten Tomatoes. The Rotten Tomatoes.
You ranked a good movie, boy, but now the movie is over. Now we rank more.
Now we splat.
We splat? This movie was a splat, wasn't it?
Everybody get their percentages in on us.
Okay.
1 to 100?
Yeah, 1 to 100. Okay, 1 to 100, guys. No words. So 1 to 100, we do critics first. So go ahead, 1 through 100. Go ahead and throw out your numbers here real quick. And then while you're at it, give us the
Audience score.
Go ahead and give us an audience score too. So Ravenfire says 63 for critic. PJ says 64. She's trying to price his writer.
Raven's got a 71 on the audience.
I'm gonna go with a 52.
Okay.
Critic wise, and I'm gonna go with a 60. I'm gonna go with a 62 on fans.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a 52 and a 62.
PJ is going with the 72.
Oh, she's going real high. She thought a lot of people liked this movie.
All right. Tomato meter.
Womp
womp womp is a 38%.
I won that one, even though it was really high. What did it say, 52? It was
Yeah.
what, a 38? That's ridiculous.
Someone's response was, "Who is the tall man? Why can't he die? Why does he do what he does? What goes on in the other dimension?" These are questions left unanswered.
That is actually the most accurate thing about this entire movie is that I think that's this movie's biggest problem. Because the first movie has an excuse. It's a surreal movie. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if it's fake. It's just, that's the way the movie is. It can leave some questions unanswered, and it's okay. This movie is more straightforward. It's not very surreal. It's not very fantastic. It's not a fantasy. It's a pretty straightforward type movie. And it has those same questions, and they look at those questions and they go, hey, questions, guess what? You're not important. You stay there. Maybe we'll explain you later. Tall man, who is he? We don't care. What does fear things do? We don't care. What's the dimension do? We don't care. Hey, Ravenfire, this one's for you. What are the slaves for? We don't care.
It's cool. That's what we care about. Flying spheres that go through doors and shoot lasers. That's cool.
Everything else doesn't matter.
Dead corpses being turned into dwarves. We don't care why. It's just cool.
Nope. Still going with the jaw with me. All right, so what I say? Fan-wise, I said 62. Raven says 71. PJ says 72. What is with you guys trying to...
Price and... I'm going to start playing the Price is Right themes.
You guys are just 63, 64. 71, 72. Well, it's up.
57.
Da, 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 da. Oh, I was close.
You all overshot.
Overshot 57.
A lot of people, like I said, this movie was not well received.
Yeah, I think primarily because of the mic change and
Somebody said they might be the minority when I say this, but his 1979 outing Phantasm was an obscenely overrated relic that has only calcified with age.
wow, that seems kind of harsh. I mean, the movie was made in, what did you say, 79?
Yeah.
I mean, movies back then were different. I mean, yes, they did have good stuff back then too. I mean, we were actually Ravenfire and I were actually watching. It's on YouTube. You guys can find it on YouTube. It's I don't even know when it came out, but it's a black and white serial that came out, starring based off of DC's comic Blackhawk, and that was some of the corniest acting I'd ever seen. I mean, when they were fighting, they were like full on slapping each other. It was pretty much just like karate chop slaps and stuff.
That's funny.
So you get this kind of like you want to say like the stuff today is better than the stuff back then, but a lot of the stuff back then may still have a campy feel to it, but it actually does, in my opinion, in a lot of cases, perform better than the stuff nowadays, because nowadays it's all special effects and
Yep.
and glamour and lights, and everything's just big and over the top. That's why these old campy movies, when they say that they're kind of old and I don't know, crusty or whatever, that gives them personality. They're not this billion-dollar polished piece of garbage, you know.
The thing I can say about Phantasm, and I'll still be able to say it even after all 5 movies are over, it's different. It's not something you're going to find in a lot of movies, because it's not the same formula as in a lot of horror movies. It's different. It is different. And that's what I like about it. That's what I've always liked about it. When you watch Friday the 13th, you get the exact same formula every movie. When you watch Phantasm, do you get the same formula every movie?
So far, no. This is actually one of the movies I would like to own in a collection. I would like to actually own this on like Blu-ray or something.
I am glad that I have gotten you onto the Phantasm train.
Yeah, I knew this was, I mean, a weird series of movies, and like I said, I've seen like very few bits and pieces of the first one, so none of it ever makes sense, and I knew it was a weird movie. I think one of the reviewers I watch on YouTube, he did a review of, I think it may have been like the first one, and that was years ago when I watched it, so I didn't even when you get kind of a full aspect explained to you, you still don't know what's going on. But you know, this is definitely, now I may eat those words by the 5th movie, and we may watch the 5th movie and I go, you know what, I just like the first 2 on DVD, I don't need the rest of them. But you know, that's the thing about movie series. You know, you're gonna have good movies, you're gonna have bad movies. Like The Fly. You know, I think The Fly is by far one of my favorite movies of all time. The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum Fly movie. I know that was I wouldn't know if you would call that a remake or a retelling, but I actually did watch the original black and white movie, and it was actually pretty good, but not as crazy as The Fly. But you're gonna have like The Fly 2 was like a really bad movie. But
Yeah.
Your favorite movies or your favorite TV shows, they're gonna have bad to them. Nothing's ever perfect. You know, whether you're a Harry Potter fan, Game of Thrones fan, Lord of the Rings fan. Sorry for all those people who like The Hobbit, because that second movie right in the middle there was just awful. But though you're a fan of these things, and you enjoy the entire experience, the goods, the bads, the in betweens, and as of
Yep.
right now, I'm enjoying this ride with Phantasm. So I know that the fifth movie, fourth movie, probably the third one's going to be not as much fun as this one. I mean, we could be having more fun with it because we're watching it as a group and laughing and playing and who's and whatnots. But so that it's all about the journey and the experience. It's not about, you know, the money, how good it looks.
Well, that's all the time we have. We will see y'all next Wednesday when we talk about Phantasm 3.
Does that one have a subtitle, or is it just Phantasm 3?
No, it does. It's Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead.
Lord of the Dead. I was gonna go Resurrection, like every '90s movie.
No, that you're thinking of Ravager. By the way, just a little Ravager, the 4-barrel shotgun does come back, or the 8-barrel shotgun does come back.
8-barrel.
Yeah, it's
4 barrels. It's Quadra.
okay. Yeah, 4-barrel. Sorry,
It's 2 double barrels put together.
it does make a comeback, but we will see y'all next week when we talk about Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. Without further ado,
of the Dead.
y'all have a great night.
Yes, have a very good night.
Phantasm. The delusion of a disordered mind. A phantom. A spirit. A ghost. For most of his life, a young man has been pursued by a sinister force. Now he must learn the secret of the ultimate evil.
Now it is time for you to come back to me.
And remember, if this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead. Phantasm 3.